There is discrimination happening in America right now, legal systemic racism discrimination, but it's not necessarily happening against brown folk. It's happening against Asians and whites on the books. That's why I fought against Prop 16, because for one, those of us with brown skin, we don't need standards lowered. We can meet the standards, so please don't do that to us, okay? And secondly, it creates resentment. When I went and got my 4-year degree and then I went and got my master's, we sat around a room, and this was at UC Santa Cruz, which is like a total liberal, horrible college. And we sat around the room and we shared our GPAs. Mine was the lowest. And there was a white guy that said, oh, you got in here because you're a black woman. And I was like, why would you say that? Blah, 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 blah. And now I look back and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it was because of the color of my skin, because they do that now. I actually got a $40,000 scholarship because I'm black. That's not happening for white kids. It's not like you can apply and get a white kid $40,000 scholarship. They would not let that happen.
In case y'all don't know who that was speaking like that, that was Kali Fontanila. And this is someone I've spoken on before, but it was a while ago. I think I only spoke about them one time, and I think even in that time I did a Blackkkaren Hall of Shame video on her, much like I'm doing on her today. Now y'all can look at her and tell she's definitely mixed. This woman is definitely mixed. I believe that her mother is white and her dad, I think he's black, but he's non-FBA. I don't know if he is FBA, but he is of melanin. I'll put it like that. And I forgot why I did a Blackkkaren Hall of Shame on her back then, but it was probably not too far off why I'm doing one on her right now. So Kali was sitting in front of these people. I'm not exactly sure where she was at, and she was talking about how she felt like she was a benefactor of affirmative action or DEI because her GPA was lower than somebody else's who was white, and that she ended up getting in because she was white because a white guy told her that, and she ended up getting this scholarship. And now she says, looking back on it, maybe it was because I was black, or as she considered herself to be brown. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, oh my God, this is an example of the type of people that do not need to be around us. But she also left this tweet up here, and I'm gonna go over it right now. She says, I believe I was admitted into my master's program because of racial preferences, and I was the only black woman in my cohort, so you know they needed that stat. My GPA was 3.2, while the rest of my non-black classmates were all around 3.6 and above. The white guy who called me out had every right to be resentful of me for getting favoritism because of the color of my skin. So again, and people were clowning her about this because they said she basically is acting like a pick-me. She feels like if I acknowledge that I probably was entered in because of my skin and not off of merit, which a 3.2 is pretty decent, you know. I mean, it's not the best, but I mean, it is decent, you know, on the national scale. She's lowering herself and feels that, oh, I had to have gotten in not because of my intelligence, but because I happen to be black or brown or whatever she decides to call herself on any given day. And people was like, really? Are you serious? But that's not the main reason people was going at her. But let me finish out the tweet. She said, I was offered a $40,000 scholarship during my undergraduate years that was only for black students. Racial preferences in hiring and college admittance only make people question competence, and create resentment where it did not need to exist. I certainly don't want to be seen as someone who earned something for my skin color rather than my merit. She says Charlie Kirk was telling the truth and they killed him for it. So again, she's doing this again on the behalf of Charlie Kirk. I said these people have been losing their minds for the last couple of weeks. I don't know what's really going on right now. I don't even think I can bring myself to understand it. She says, we must not let his message be silenced. By the way, I was totally capable of being a better student during my undergrad to meet the real standard, but I didn't. I remember going to a final after partying all night. Now, the part that people was getting on her about was this $40,000 scholarship that she got during her undergrad years that she said was only for black students. It's funny she's coming out now and talking about how when she was going for her master's program, she felt she got in because over the non-black students because of DEI or affirmative action. But she was very proud to accept that $40,000 scholarship in her undergrad years that was for only black students, you know, with no problem. But now it seems like she has a problem with it. But she took it. She accepted it. So it's like, okay, then why are you complaining about it? if you accepted this $40,000 scholarship, why are you complaining about it now? This is the same thing we got on Candace about when she talks about systemic racism and stuff like that doesn't exist, after she got a $35,000 settlement from the NAACP for discrimination against her because of her being melanated. So it's like, don't have this come into Jesus moment now after you done got paid or after you got some money for a scholarship. Like, we already see it for what it is. So people was clowning her about this. And yes, in case y'all are unaware, Kali is married to a PC man. And surprise, surprise, no one is remotely surprised by that. So she wrote this on September 19th. And of course, she had to stamp it and ended off with saying, oh, I'm doing this to basically honor Charlie Kirk. These people, these people have lost their minds. Okay. And I can only think that they're doing it because of engagement. Again, his name is still in the algorithm, and they're trying to milk this for all they can until they can't do it anymore. Because eventually it's going to fizzle out, or something else is going to happen and it's going to overtake that. So they're trying to get as much engagement out of this while they can until they can't anymore and something else takes over the algorithm. I mean, the crazy part about it is there have been a lot of things that have been happening in the news since then that has not latched on because of this. And a lot of it is happening in their community. But that's fine, because that's what you have people like myself and others in the new black media for, because we're going to catch whatever they just fall and fumble through their fingers. And they're doing that intentionally. But as far as Kali goes, she's a lost cause. I actually completely forgot about her until I was made aware of this post. And I saw this. I said, oh God, here she go. I think this might actually be like the second video I've ever done on her in like the last year or two. That's how irrelevant she is to me. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.